In this lesson, we're going to be practicing our different measurement skills using different equipment that we may or may not be familiar with, which is why we're going to practice now. That way when we actually get to labs within each of our units, we will know, hopefully, what we are doing. So first, one of the tools that you'll be using is a graduated cylinder. And when you read a graduated cylinder, we typically use them to get a more precise measurement. And so it's important that you look for the meniscus. And this is not the structure in your knee, but it's actually referring to this little curve that you see here when you measure in small tubes. So when you're using a graduated cylinder, it's important that you get at eye level, as you can see here, and measure from the bottom of the meniscus for an accurate measurement. And here we have a balance, and it's going to measure different things that we use in many of our different labs, depending on which one you have. Some of them will give you 2 decimal places, and some of them will just give you 1. But it is important that when you place your items on the scale here, that there are different modes that you can have, and that's going to give you a different unit of measurement. And then you also want to pay attention to this ZT over here, and it's going to be a 0 or a tear, which allows you to start whatever weight over at 0. Next, we have something that probably looks very familiar. When we measure things in science, we want to use the metric system, which means we will not be using feet, we will not be using inches. You want to use millimeters, centimeters, meters. So make sure that you're including your units in the most descriptive form possible. Here we have a tool that is referred to as a pipette, and this is going to allow you to get small amounts of any sort of liquid into the container that you want. So here this works kind of like an eyedropper or a medicine dropper, where you're going to squeeze on the little bulby end here and it will draw water up into it, and then you can squeeze or let go again and it'll shoot it back out at the bottom. The cool thing about these tools is it actually has little measurement lines, which you can kind of see on here, each of these dashes. So it can measure for you as you are using it. And lastly, we have a thermometer, which you are probably all somewhat familiar with, but when using a thermometer in science, just like the metric system, we also will be measuring using Celsius, not Fahrenheit. So it's important that you are using the correct option. Some of them will show you both Celsius or Fahrenheit, so you just need to pick Celsius. And then with these, they are breakable, and we want to be protective of them. And so always put them back in the case when you're done with them, and never just leave them around so they could roll off the countertop.